It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. It's Feedback Friday, and this Feedback Friday, gonna go in reverse order. Gonna do Wednesday's video, Wednesday's video first, Monday's video second. So I'm really tired today. You know, one of those things where you sleep really crappy for a few days in a row, and then you get a good night's sleep and you feel worse. That's me today. But in we go, because it was really, thought out feedback. The interesting additions to what I said, but also when people disagreed, they disagreed with enough substance that I can respond to it, which I really appreciate. So if you like this kind of content, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/LeannaK if you want to sign up for a Leanna Care session for yourself or for a friend or loved one. Link in the description box below to the sign-up form. Okay, so I actually got gaslighted this week, ironically, with the video. And I say gaslighted because I'm a word nerd. And to me, gaslight is the name of the movie. It is not a verb in terms of light, lit. You have to use the whole name of the film to make it a proper, regularly conjugated noun into verb, therefore gaslighted. God, I'm having Joe Biden moments this video, right? Like stares off into space. Just proof it can happen at any age, people. It can happen at any age. Okay, so here we go. Getting gaslighted. Yeah, it happened. Stalker Chan successfully gaslighted me into thinking that I was wrong about her actually doing court diversion and doing community service in exchange for the withdrawal of her criminal mischief arrest. And she was so adamant I was wrong, so adamant, like posting her own docs, adamant, that I doubted myself for a bit. And then I went and found her old live journal where she talked about doing community service, and then, they withdrew the charges, and I'm like, and then she gaslighted more. She is pretending to be multiple people on Twitter to gaslight. And the thing is, it works if you are a at all accountable person, right? If somebody is so adamant about something, you start going, did that happen? Did I get it wrong? And that's what's so insidious about it. And there was an interesting thing in the comments section about whether gaslighting was just lying. One person said gaslighting is just lying. Another person said the thing that I hate is that it's just replaced lying. And I disagree that gaslighting is just lying. Gaslighting is an insidious, and this is why I think the word isn't very useful, because you have to be aware of the original film, Gaslight, wherein I believe it was the husband kept turning down the lamps. So the wife was like, it's darker in here. No, it's not. You're just imagining it, right? That's gaslighting. Lying isn't necessarily an attempt to make someone think they're losing their mind. And it's an especially nasty form of lying, because I think some people convince themselves that it's a white lie. A lot of people, especially if you've got a diagnosed mental health condition, a lot of people think it's okay to lie to you for your own good, and it's not. Sometimes it's not the right time to tell someone, but if you're lying to someone to try to save their feelings because they're mentally ill, you're going to get caught. And they're not going to trust you anymore. And they're going to be really angry that you thought so little of them, even if that wasn't what you intend. It actually is what people do. It's one thing to consider someone's feelings. It's another thing to treat them like they're fragile or weak. And a lot of people with conditions like borderline personality disorder, PTSD, other mental health conditions that do make emotions run very hot sometimes. A lot makes you dysregulated at a nervous system level. They're tough motherfuckers. And everyone can only take so much. And underestimating how much someone can handle to the point that you're lying to them is in some ways worse than pushing too hard. Because if you push too hard and you get a big reaction, you can go, all right, I'm sorry that came out wrong, or okay, bad time, or something like that. Holding things from people, withholding information, denies them choices. And as somebody where that, people did that to me. And instead of making things better, instead of sparing me, all it did was, instead of letting me know there was a problem when it was early and I could do something about it, they hid it from me until it became a huge issue. And I find out about it months later when the choices are very dire and there's nothing I can do but submit to their way of doing things. And I'm still pissed off about some of those things till this day. You don't do that to anyone. You especially don't do it to somebody whose, mental health issues come from precisely that, and having the rug yanked out from them too many times because people hid information, whisper campaigns behind their back, lies and deceit, where if anybody had said anything, I could have cleared it up. There was a reasonable explanation, but no, people just tell stories. And that's the weird thing about Stalker Chan. She lies when the truth would be better. And then she lies some more, and she lies some more. This week, under the trans person she's pretending to be, she mentioned an instance where involving somebody who was in from out of town. So it was only 3 days it could have happened. And there were only 10 people involved. There were 3 women, one of which were Stalker Chan. 3 other women other than me. There were 6 other men. All those men are still living as men. And the only other woman I'm not in contact with still is Stalker Chan. No trans women were there. And yet she's still insisting she hasn't been caught. No, lies. She's just lying. Lies. Lies. She's unhinged. She's spinning. Like, at this point, I really don't know who she's fooling. But she keeps lying. And it's really hard to not go, I must be missing something. I must be mistaken about something. No, she's just, like, that's gaslighting and pathological lying. And that's why, instead of getting into what do these terms mean, because as one commenter mentioned, we're in this constant tug of war between the words have meaning camp and the language evolves camp. And honestly, I'm both. I recognize that language evolves, but red is never going to evolve into meaning blue, even though literally means metaphorically or figuratively with more emphasis. Like, oh my God, I'm literally dying. Like, I guess technically that's true. We're all gonna die sometime, but not imminently, right? So Yeah, I am going to try going forward. The word is, it's hard to not use the word because other people use the word. But when I relay things, I'm going to try to be very specific. Because I mean, I do think Stalker Chan is, she's deliberately trying to ruin me. She has for 13 years. And she does it by bullshit, like posting the paperwork withdrawing her charge, not including the detail that she did community service to get that piece of paper, right? So I guess people who want to believe her will see that and go, oh, she's telling the truth. Yeah, it takes 18 months to get a court date, and this was 6, so it must be real. She couldn't possibly. No, because diversion happens at your first meeting. It's very possible to have made a community service deal. And because it's a separate program, it's not done through the courts. So the whole purpose of diversion is to reduce costs. It's specifically used for nonviolent crimes where the cost of the trial is more than what the crime is worth. And in her case, she was mainly charged to get the false charges against her ex for domestic violence dropped. Invalidate her so they get dropped because he didn't do it and because she lied. And so her going to jail, her being punished was not the main goal. It was to get his life back and spare him the cost of a lengthy, expensive trial. And I mean, people may say, oh, that's the courts being corrupt. No, that's why we have judges. That's why we have people. That's people going, this is a miscarriage. Here's a tool we can use so that this guy isn't forced to, pay a criminal lawyer trial rates or take a plea bargain that may get him put on a sex offender registry, right? Like, these were serious stakes. And that's why getting to the core of these problems is essential and not getting caught up in these cutesy poo words. And I do think that the whole domestic violence issue has gotten too slogany. The whole mental health space has gotten too derivative. Healing and rebalancing when you have a mental illness or an emotional injury. Trauma's more an emotional injury than a mental illness. You're not divorced from reality. Your reactions are just intense. That's derivative, right? I'm trying to get to the point here. But it's a lot of fucking work. And it is constant maintenance. And you feel shitty sometimes having to do all this work. Because at least in my case, I got into the PTSD, one, trying to outrun, childhood stuff. And just thinking if I accomplished, I'd finally feel like I mattered. I'd finally feel safe. I'd finally feel, like I could control the important things about my life. And it doesn't work. Achievement doesn't make you feel safe. In fact, the more you try to achieve, the more people try to, knock you off the pedestal they think you're on. They try to invalidate your achievements. Stalker Chan insists I was never successful in the Canadian media landscape, and yet she's got credits on her IMDb profile for a show I started and produced. It doesn't make any sense, right? People are just mean, and it's very hard to understand cruelty that you're not capable of. And what I've learned dealing with these really vicious people and trying to understand, like, using that empathy to go through it instead of trying to back away from it, that these are people who can't admit they fucked up because they have no self-compassion. And it starts off with a little bit of lying. And a little bit of lying to aggrandize, to make themselves bigger or more important or more victimized than they really were. You know, it can't just be hurt, it has to be harm. And I was actually told by a cop that a lot of false accusations of sexual assault come because, you know, they lied out of embarrassment to their friends, and then their friends pushed them to go to the police, and they couldn't admit they lied, so they ended up in way over their head. And, you know, that's why never push a person to go to the police. It has to be their decision, because that's a great way to, right. And that's the thing about working in these spaces, working with survivors, especially of adverse experiences, we'll say, when they're children. It's messy. You really see the dark side of society and the hurt people phenomenon, which is why I'm so fascinated with shows like The Boys. You see that segue? Check that out. Smooth like butter. That was a really interesting conversation in comments, guys. Thank you for that. Really, really validating. You know, somebody said, you are the best at breaking down and properly assessing situations. Sometimes hearing you delve into things is genuinely refreshing for the very balanced takes. Awesome. One person said, philosophical question asked in half jest. Does it count as supporting women if I'm in practice part of the support structure for the workplace and all my immediate superiors are women? I know that was in half jest, but said totally seriously, yeah, that is supporting women. The number of issues I got into, this is a story of why I don't like the word bitch, because I was an associate producer and then a senior producer really fucking young. Because I was competitive, and because I was doing more hosting than acting when I was a kid, but there was some acting. I had a lot of experience. By the time I did a lot of theater in high school. And so I was very young when I got into television. I was 19 when I started in TV. And by the time I was 20, we were getting university students who were there for their internship, and they were older than me. And getting them to actually take instruction was, holy shit. It took me more time to get them to follow an instruction than it would have been to do it myself, because there was so much pushback. Oh, they went to university that can no longer be named because the name got canceled. And oh, they went to the RTA program, and oh, they knew. Like, they didn't know shit about how things actually worked in the real world. They were from the academy, you know, the Polytechnic University. It was a pain in the ass. It was awful. And it was completely foreign to me, because the way I came up through really hardcore competitive dance, and, you know, when you are young and a performer, they drill it into you. You wear what they tell you to wear. They're going to do your hair the way the character is supposed to look. They're going to do your makeup the way the character is supposed to look. If they give you a direction, trust them and take the direction. That's why they're called the director. And it was drummed into, I mean, I wore a lot of things that I remember the one thing, it was a bright pink costume for a jazz number. Bright ass pink, like Barbie pink. It was a Barbie pink costume, and then we had these gymnastics ribbons, and they were fluorescent yellow. And so the whole idea is the lights would go out at one point during the performance, and you'd see the ribbons and all that stuff. And I was in a goth phase. So it was burgundy, royal purple, black, and that's it, pink. I was in my allergic to pink phase. I hated this fucking costume. But then I saw the recording of the performance, and I had to admit it was right. It looked damn good. The choreographer and the teacher for that, shout out to Miss Gwen from Maxine School of Dance back in the day. She really knew what the fuck she was doing. She was brilliant. Some of the best intricate choreography, like full body choreography for jazz came from her. Maxine Ross, oh my God, the tap instruction I got from her. I don't know that they teach stuff that complicated anymore. I was really blessed to learn from some really good people who were also total hard asses. So being confronted with these people who didn't take instruction when I came from the school of somebody who was your classmate in one class, maybe the teacher in your next class, and you do what they fucking say because you're setting an example for the rest of the cast. That apparently didn't apply in these illustrious universities that were pumping out these assholes that couldn't take instruction. So, yes, if you are following the instructions of your female boss, that doesn't mean without challenge. Ask questions, really important. But if you're not openly being insubordinate, yes, you're doing a lot. Because that's my issue with the word bitch. If you tell somebody to do something, all they can say is, well, she was bitchy. Well, she's a bitch. And other people in the organization won't say, you still have to do it. They're like, yeah, I know she's a bitch, but, you know, no. If a male supervisor tells you to do something, are you going to go, what a little bitch? What a bitch? No. Your boss told you to do something. And there's this problem where people, especially people with mommy issues, a woman tells them to do something, they see their mother, not their boss or their colleague or supervisor or teacher. They just see their mom. And then they get into, regressed, holding breath, refusing to eat their broccoli mode. And it's a real problem. And because so many people get into media to, futilely try to fill the hole inside them with attention, there's a lot of mommy issues in television. That's part of the reason I like game dev better. The issues are different. I'm not saying there's no issues, but male devs are kind of terrified of me, but it's very, I've had people I worked for label me a problem. But that was because I was middle management. I was doing producing duties, like kind of mid-level coordinating with the money people, and they had unrealistic expectations. And so I was protecting the coders and the artists and all the other people so that I took it so they wouldn't have to. But the people working under me saw that, appreciated it, and in one case I said to the head coding dev, the head Unity dev, I said, I'm pretty sure he's gonna fire me. And he said if he did that he would be very stupid And it was only a few days later that he fired me. And it was just, he couldn't admit he was wrong. He didn't like that I was saying the milestones you're asking for are not possible. You're crunching the devs and there's no more money to crunch. It happens. It happens. Sometimes you have to take that risk for your people. So that's and then it was funny because the lawyer on that gig was the guy's father, and he wasn't a business lawyer, and you could tell. I'm getting derailed. Let's get into the actual Hughie thing, because there was a lot of stuff about kink and all that stuff, and how people missed it because Tech Knight and Ashley are not ethical people. And yeah, it was, and one really good point was made about Webweaver being an addict and having other problems. So was he truly capable of consenting? And that's a really great question. And one, I love that a show allows us to discuss this. And two, I love that somebody brought that up, because this is how, when we talk about morally gray characters, this is what morally gray actually means. And there are multiple right answers in the interpretation of this scene. And that's why, even though it was very hard to watch and some people got really offended by it, I think it's worthy as art because there's so many layers to it. And, you know, people said in the comments that they don't like the fact that we can't discuss these taboos, right? We can't really get into it because there's this whole, the moral crusader and both sides horseshoe theory kicks in. Think of the children, or think of the victims, or South Park and the boys and all that stuff. I'll throw Family Guy in there, even though I personally don't like Seth MacFarlane's stuff. I don't think it's nearly as balanced or clever as South Park or The Boys. South Park goes through periods where they just kind of churn it out, but then every so often they do like the Caitlyn Jenner thing or the Lizzo thing, and it's really well done. You know, I sit back and go, you know, it's something that could have been in poor taste and stupid, or in poor taste and really, really, really smart and poignant. And the fact that they managed poor taste and really smart and poignant, that is really, really hard to do. The last thing I want to get into, and there was a disagreement. I said there was enough detail, but the person who disagreed, I don't really know what the disagreement was, because I didn't disagree with anything the commenter said. I never said The Boys was just about poor taste. Poor taste is part of it. That's not all of it. So I don't actually think we're in disagreement. I actually think we agree. So that's nice. That's why it's good to put a comment with detail. So I can say, yeah, there's no major point in what this commenter said that I disagree with. It's just, okay, misunderstanding. Cool, right? The thing I found interesting is the people who asked, would the scene read differently if it was a woman? Would they even attempt to do it with a woman? And most shows, I'd say absolutely not. The Boys, I'm not sure. Because, I mean, they've got Ashley compulsively pulling out her hair, so she has to wear wigs. And this is the first time we've seen Ashley doing kinky stuff. But then you get into, I mean, there's been some pretty grisly deaths involving women on that show. But it's the scene, first of all, in Gen V, if you've seen it, some of the scenes that Emma is a part of, the girl who shrinks and grows, there are scenes where she is sexually degraded and it's played for laughs. Because she's teeny tiny. I won't describe it because it's a spoiler, but you can imagine, you know, a little girl makes certain parts of men's anatomy look bigger. That was kind of the joke. But it is shown that it is degrading and she doesn't enjoy it. And those scenes are played for shock laughs. They are. But that's Gen V. In The Boys itself, there's that scene after Stormfront gets charred, right? Gets horribly disfigured. And Homelander comes in to see her. And there's that scene where she's still appealing to his ego. And literally, like, I think she's only got one arm left. And she reaches out and gives him a hand job. Like, that's sort of darkly funny. Like, you're sitting here going, oh my God. Right? So The Boys is not afraid to go there. You know, they also showed figure skaters, both male and female, getting like cut in half and stuff like that. You know, those scenes with Sister Sage go there. And the thing with Firecracker and Homelander also, it's not the same as I always forget Elizabeth Shue's character. I remember it begins with an M. But she is basically his boss on paper. Same way Ashley is his boss on paper. Elizabeth Shue's character had more ability to manipulate him in the short term. But Firecracker's Homelander's subordinate, essentially. And the fact that she is taking medication that enlarges her heart, so that she will lactate, so that he can breastfeed, that was a joke. Like, that was supposed to be darkly funny. The way it was written, like, oh, I'm on medication and it only causes minor enlargement of the heart. You know, that's a joke. She is damaging herself to people please. Homelander please. It was played as a joke. So in this case, yes, because with the Hughie stuff, none of it was, tickling's not painful, right? It was more kind of farting on a cake's not painful. It's embarrassing, right? And so on that standard, I do think that the girls are playing pretty close to the boys, right? Pardon the pun. And I do think that matters. I do think it is fair to ask, could you do this scene with a woman? And I mean, keep it, like, remember the very first splatter scene in The Boys is Hughie's girlfriend. Like, they do a straight up fridge as the first thing. And the whole Starlight thing, like, everybody just goes to Starlight as though she's the only woman that matters in this show. And I do think that that's very interesting because that's one of Starlight's superpowers. She's a bright, shiny object that everybody pays attention to and forgets that there's a whole bunch of other women who have been through some shit, you know? So, how they resolve Starlight has not been determined yet. They're just starting to show that she ain't all sweetness and light, like confirming it. So we're gonna have to wait to see on that one, but I don't think it's as simple as going, could you do to Starlight what you do to Hughie? It's, would you depict any woman in a de-empowered, sexually humiliating position? And they have done that. So, and they're named characters. They're not like an extra the way other shows might do it. So I do think in this case, you can make the argument that yes, they're willing to go there with women if the particular character suits. They don't do it because it's a man, because it's a woman. They do it based on the individual character. And that's ultimately, from a gender perspective, the absolute best we can ask. So good job on the boys. Keep being smart and gross. Okay, everybody, help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/Leanna K. Sign up for a Leanna Care session for yourself if there's something you feel like you need to work out or just want someone to talk to about stuff. You're feeling lonely, you want to chat for an hour. There are people that do that too. Thanks for watching, and I cannot freaking find. There we are. Thanks for watching, and have a great weekend.